welcome back to the D-Lo Show, and I am your host, Ryan D-Lo Delosier. Today, we're heading back to Yakima to uncover another tragic yet complicated story of violence, survival, and justice. Just a content warning to go along with this. This episode does discuss domestic violence and gun violence, and some of the content may be upsetting, especially to those who have experienced abuse or loss. If you or someone you know needs support, help is available. You can call or text 988 for mental health and suicide crises, and for domestic violence support, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Or you can also text START, that's S-T-A-R-T, to 88788. All right, on with the case right here. So this case comes to us. It happened in August of 2020, and it's a case that's more than just headlines locally. It stirred up a lot of community debate and ultimately led to a decision by the prosecutors that surprised some and made perfect sense to others. This is the case of Walter and Kimberly Hansen, and the case number is 20Y032194. Call this episode Justified Homicide. It was a Wednesday morning, August 19th, 2020. Police scanners across Yakima lit up with a chilling call. A woman reporting she had just shot her husband. When the shooting happened, the police rushed to the 1000 block of South 19th Avenue just before 8 a.m. When they were there, they found 51-year-old Walter Hansen in the bedroom, still alive, but gravely injured from a gunshot wound to his head. Walter was transported to Virginia Mason Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at around 9 a.m. The route there from their house, as you may or may not be able to see, if you're watching this on video as well, you'll be able to see it right there from where their house was at. I can show you the route that they would have probably taken, down 19th right there. So the total distance you can see is just 4 minutes from their house, 1.1 miles away from where the hospital was. So when the police arrived, I am imagining that he was probably pretty close to dead by that time. So within an hour, and by the time they got there at 9 o'clock, they were able to determine that he had died while there at the hospital. All right, carrying on with my slideshow here. We're going to go back to a few things here in my presenter view. All right, the woman who called 911 was his wife. She was 41-year-old Kimberly Hansen. Remember, Walter was 51, so there's a 10-year age gap right there, something to note. And then according to police reports, when the officers arrived, Kimberly immediately admitted what had happened. And she had said, "I had to do it. It was the only way." All right, more to that coming here as well. She was taken into custody that morning, so on August 19th, after the police had taken Walter to the hospital, and then after they had pronounced him dead from a gunshot wound to the head, they brought her into the Yakima Police Headquarters for questioning. And then we'll get into Kimberly's story right here next. So during the interviews, Kimberly told detectives a harrowing story. She claimed that Walter had imprisoned her inside her home since the previous Sunday. So, a few days right there. She said he wouldn't let her leave. He tied her to the bed and gave her sleeping medication to keep her drowsy. She even alleged that he forced her to snort cocaine. Kimberly described waking up Wednesday morning. So remember, she said that she had been locked in this house since Sunday, and she woke up Wednesday morning with Walter asleep beside her bed. A handgun he had owned was resting nearby, and she said she grabbed it. Walter stirred. During the struggle, there was a struggle that ensued between the two, and then the gun went off, shooting Walter in the head. Detectives were skeptical of this story. They noted that while Kimberly did have bruises on her legs and shoulders, there were no ligature marks to back up the story that she had been tied up for days. They also pointed out to her first statements to the officers at the scene that suggested something deliberate, not accidental. Remember going back, she said that she did shoot him. She had to. It was her only way. Still, her story highlighted a much bigger picture, a long history of domestic violence between the Hansens. In this next part of the podcast, we'll delve into Walter's history. So at the time of his death, Walter Hansen was out on bail. That's worth noting as well, too. He had pending charges for first-degree burglary, second-degree assault, and violating a no-contact order. All three of these involved Kimberly as the victim. Let's go back through those again. Let me restate those. First-degree burglary, second-degree assault, and violating a no-contact order. All of these involved Kimberly. He was out on bail. Court records also revealed a troubling past. Walter had prior convictions for domestic violence and, more disturbingly, for child molestation and child rape. He also had a federal conviction from 2005 for possessing an unregistered firearm. Kimberly, meanwhile, was listed as the protected party in the no-contact order that Walter repeatedly violated. So going back to this, like he's out for violating a no-contact order against the person that he violated the no-contact order. She ends up shooting him in the head. Yeah, there's definitely more of this story right here. So this background became a crucial factor in how the case unfolded. Initially, prosecutors charged Kimberly Hansen with second-degree murder, domestic violence. Second-degree murder and domestic violence. Her bail was set at $25,000, a figure that shocked many because it was just low. The prosecutors wanted $1 million, citing her conflicting statements and the need for the public to be safe. But her defense attorney, Beth Worthcamp, argued otherwise. This is what she said. This is important. I love this line. She told the judge she's only a danger to people who beat and strangle her. So, yeah, and I think that person is gone now. Worthcamp highlighted Walter's ongoing abuse and criminal record. She emphasized that Kimberly had no prior criminal history, held a steady job, and was a low risk to fleeing the community and skipping bail. The court ultimately sided with the defense, setting bail at a lower amount of $25,000 instead of the $1 million. Kimberly was released not long after, but the real turning point came just days later. Just 5 days after the shooting, Yakima County Prosecutor Joe Brusick made a surprising announcement. No charges would be filed against Kimberly Hansen. In a letter to detectives, Brusick explained that based on the evidence, the history, and circumstances, a reasonable juror would conclude that Miss Hansen acted in self-defense. He went on to note that the state must prove the absence of self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt, something he didn't believe was possible in this case. So Kimberly walked free. The case drew some strong reactions from the community, both in the courtroom and on social media, everyone's favorite platform to voice their displeasure or pleasure with certain things that go on in our community. Some of Walter's family members expressed fear and anger, arguing that Kimberly should be held accountable. One family member told the court, none of the family want that risk. Others, especially those who knew Kimberly's history of abuse, saw the outcome as justice finally being served. On Facebook, one commenter wrote, "If the reports are true, the system failed her. He had a protective order. He strangled her, and still the abuse continued. If she didn't protect herself, she'd be dead." Another simply wrote, "She did everyone a favor." Of course, not everyone agreed. Some felt that no matter the circumstances, taking a life could not be justified. This divide in public opinion is what makes the Hansen case both heartbreaking and unforgettable. I want to thank you for taking time to listen to this with me. If you made it this far, just a reminder, this is case number 20Y032194 of the Yakima Police Department. The shooting of Walter Hansen, and it happened on August 19th, 2020. We all remember that time. Good times. The case where the justice system ultimately decided that justice had already been served. So what do you think? Did the prosecutors make the right call, or did Kimberly Hansen escape accountability for taking a life? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so reach out on social media, The D-Lo Show. You can find me at D-Lo Show Podcast. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Check all those things out, and let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, this is Ryan D-Lo Delosier, and you've been listening to The D-Lo Show. If you or someone you know needs support, help is available. You can call or text 988 for mental health and suicide crises. For domestic violence support, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or text START, S-T-A-R-T, to 88788. Once again, this is Ryan D-Lo Delosier. You can find me on the D-Lo Show D-Lo Show Podcast. Check it out. Lots of good stuff on there. We're covering some great murders with a small town flair.